Are you wanting to learn more about your health and wellness options in Central Illinois? Visit stealthwellness.com or click on my banner ad at DeWittDailyNews.com. Let me, Dr. Bill Byers, show you some simple, under-the-radar ways to improve and take control of your health.
Connexus will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
News time, 9 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Agriculture education is an important part for students, especially in Central Illinois. Henry Kraft is a youth development educator with the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, and explains his work in the classrooms with teachers and students.
I'm a 4-H youth development educator with DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. So I work a lot with students, teachers in the classroom in Clinton, Monticello, Decatur, but also outside of that. So a lot of schools like D-Lynn Weldon or Cerro Gordo, Bement, things like that. This month is my 1-year anniversary with 4-H, so I'm pretty excited. But working with the schools has been really gratifying. So you get to go in and take hands-on experiences to students that may or may not have experience with 4-H.
Kraft explains his part of the job is going into the classroom and exposing kids to 4-H and expanding on the notions students may or may not already have about the program.
4-H is super robust, right? So there's a lot to it. So we've got our clubs that are really impacting kids on a local level in that traditional 4-H format. So part of my role is going into the schools and exposing kids to 4-H concepts and ideas outside of what they would normally think of as 4-H. And so when I go into the classroom, all these kids don't have to be signed up for 4-H, but they get to have a 4-H experience in the class. And that's really the cool part about what I get to do, coming alongside teachers and augmenting their learning, because man, I don't know if you've talked to many teachers lately, but that is a hard gig, and they get to do a lot of the hard stuff, and they don't always get to do the fun stuff. So when 4-H can come in and augment what they're doing and provide some of that fun stuff, that's where I get a lot of joy to go in the classroom with kids.
Kraft describes getting his programs into schools as an adventure. Many of the programs are made for specific interests, which can be a challenge, but he reaches out to principals, teachers, and administrators to make connections.
Yeah, it can be an adventure trying to find that right person that fits, because a lot of our programs are very specific to a certain type of classroom, a certain teacher. But yeah, I mean, reaching out to principals, superintendents, and then also there are teachers that hear about our programs from peers and say, "Oh man, I really want Henry, Kendra, Rachel, Eric in my classroom." So they reach out to us in our local offices and inquire about our various programs. One of the things that I try to do when I work with teachers is really find out what they're teaching and what their needs are. And so that we don't just do canned programs, we also work with teachers to create things that meet their needs. And so I always say this to any teacher that I work with is 4-H doesn't want to be an extra thing or burden. We want to be an augment and a boon and an excitement in your classroom. So that's really the benefit to the teachers, is to really get the kids excited about what they're learning.
If you'd like to get Kraft into your classroom, you can email him at hkraft@illinois.edu. Domestic abuse comes in many forms and isn't always physical. Andrea Coker is the Director of Services with Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County and explains many people believe if their situation does not involve physical violence, then it's not a valid domestic abuse situation.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, I know I talk about this a lot, but I just continue to see it all the time whenever I have conversations with victims, that people believe if their relationship isn't physically violent, then my work doesn't apply to them, or domestic violence isn't what they're living. They just have a bad relationship, or their relationship just isn't great, or it's going through a rough patch, or whatever the excuses may be. The misconception is that if it's not physical, it's not deviant. It just isn't true.
According to Coker, abusers are often looking for control in the relationship. This can be because of many reasons, but most abusers often display the same behaviors.
Essentially, like, the goal of a person who's abusive, and like, it's not like a person wakes up one day and is like, you know what, I think I'll abuse someone today. But what abusers do is that they get very comfortable with being in control or having control over another person. And that may have started small for them too. It may just be the way that the relationships were around that person. Whenever I'm going to use him because it's a little bit easier for context.
Sure.
But it just may be how he grew up, and that's what was modeled to him. Or it could be that that's been successful for him because maybe a relationship was going to end and it stopped because he controlled the other person. So it's working for him. Or it could be, there's so many areas of why a person becomes controlling. But the end goal for an abusive person is that they have control over their partner or over their victim. There's truly 8 ways that happens, and they don't happen independently. Almost every single victim experiences all 8 of them.
Wow.
They don't realize it at the time. Sometimes some are more significant than others, but it's just the reality that abusive people carry these behaviors.
Coker says there are 8 behaviors that victims of domestic abuse often face from their abusers, although they may not be in a specific order or present themselves the same way. These are the most common behaviors.
They are coercion, so using coercion and threats against their victim, intimidating, emotional abuse, using isolation, minimizing behaviors and gaslighting. If there are children, using children as pawns or using children against them in general, some form of male privilege, and economic abuse.
Next week, we'll do a deep dive into all 8 of those behaviors. If you'd like more information on Willow Tree Missions, visit willowtreemissions.org or find them on Facebook. It's back to school time in Illinois, and with students back in the classroom full swing, some of the high schoolers are getting their driver's licenses for the first time, and a local law enforcement agency generally takes notice of the excited first-time independent drivers. Lincoln Police Chief Joe Meister says they deal with traffic complaints around the time school gets out in their community.
Yeah, we sure do, and we've been taking some measures, extra patrol details to try to curb some of that speeding or reckless driving with the new drivers who are excited to get out there and go fast. We're going to move a speed radar sign from an area that it's no longer needed to Pulaski Street to try to help just remind those kids, you're going too fast, slow down. I think they help out, I really do. If a person is focusing their attention down the roadway the way they should be, that when that speed sign pops up and shows them how fast they're going, I think it helps to slow them down.
Unrelated, but still on the radar of law enforcement in Lincoln right now, is property crimes. Chief Meister explains they're seeing a lot of crimes at businesses. He says they get both forced entry and crimes of opportunity.
Right now we've been suffering from a lot of property crimes, burglaries, thefts. Most of the suspects are targeting construction trailers, garages, and then a few commercial businesses have also been victimized. Mostly folks looking for tools or for copper. So we had 4 major burglaries in the last month, and luckily our detectives worked on those and were able to solve them and make arrests in those cases. We've had both forced entry and just crime of opportunity type things happen. We actually had one commercial burglary where the suspects cut their way into the building with a torch. But like it's always said, make sure that you're secure in your vehicles, your garages, lock your doors, or you're very likely to be victimized.
Chief Meister gives props to his detectives, who he says have extensive experience in law enforcement and doing detective work. He credits them for helping curb the drug problems in the community.
Both of our detectives are nearly 20-year police officers. One is a sergeant as well, so he leads the investigative unit. Both these guys have a great amount of experience in investigating a variety of different crimes, from violent crimes to property crimes. And then we also employ a full-time narcotics investigator. Absolutely. It always has been. They're making a lot of headway on the supply chain to drugs in Lincoln, and I think we're looking at curbing that quite a bit here in the future.
Chief Meister recently told Regional Radio about a new downtown security initiative they're undertaking, as well as a new program to register home security cameras to aid in criminal investigations. We'll hear more from the chief on those initiatives in the weeks ahead on Regional Radio. News time is 19 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Much more to get to coming up on the morning show.
The Chevrolet Silverado is ready to work for you. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Yes, we've got a great selection of 24 Silverados in regular cab, double cab, and crew cab models with gas or diesel engines. Our 3-liter Duramax diesel gets fantastic fuel mileage, 20 city, 30 highway, while working for you. We have 6.6 engines in gas or diesel for our HD Silverados as well. Come see our inventory today at BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time, 20 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Portions of Illinois should receive a good soaking later this week. The southern half of the state is likely to see the remnants of Tropical Storm Francine beginning late Thursday morning, says freeze notice weather meteorologist Paul Otto.
So it's going to go through many phases before it gets to us. But the latest maps, they're showing even a little bit of a western progression to its northerly track, which means it's definitely going to hit southern Illinois, including southwestern Illinois. And then when it does its little wobble, anticyclonic turn, it's going to pretty much get the entire southern part of the state as we go into Thursday night and Friday. It does show that it wants to do some weakening, which is normal. The further away it gets from the tropical source, which is the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to weaken. But it looks like we're only going to get about a good 12 to 24 hours of nearly continuous rain for the southern half of Illinois. It's going to make it about as far north as I'd say about Decatur and Champaign, the nearly steady rain. And then even as we go into the coming weekend, we're still going to have that moisture in place because the low, just even though it's in a weakened state, it just really doesn't want to head east. There's no push to it because the storm track right now that takes all the storms usually from west to east is well up into Canada. So it really has not much of a push to get out of here. So that's just even better news as eastern portions of the state will see a continued chance for afternoon thunderstorms. Looks like the clouds will start moving in as soon as Thursday late morning in parts of southern Illinois and just only advance north as the day goes through. And rainfall amounts that we're looking at is in the 1 to 3 inch range. And it's really going to be a pretty severe cutoff between who gets just the 1 inch of rain and who gets the 3 inch. But mainly we're looking at far southern Illinois for the 3 inch potential.
Temps will also warm up Thursday throughout the state, with most areas approaching 90 degrees. Illinois State University set another record, this time with the largest incoming class in the university's history. This year's incoming class marks a nearly 3% increase over the previous academic year. Jeff Mavros is the Director of Admissions and Recruitment and Marketing.
Times are good, and it's happened for a number of reasons. I think the university is at a place where we're providing a lot of what students and families these days are looking for, from academic program availability to campus safety and the beauty of the campus and all the amenities surrounding in the great community that we have, to affordability. I think we check a lot of boxes for students and families, and we also offer just a really welcoming, warm campus environment where I think people feel really comfortable. So all that comes together and I think works in our favor when we're trying to recruit new students to Illinois State.
The university's population includes over 19,000 undergraduates and nearly 2,500 grad students. Total enrollment on the campus is over 21,000. It's an idea whose time has come, getting more of our food from closer to home. Gary Crawford has this report.
Yes, 50 years ago, the idea of farmers markets and producing food for those markets and for a few local consumers was what we would have called a groovy idea. One of those quaint so-called feel-good ideas. But today, according to Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack,
this is not some feel-good activity. This is an economic engine and driver.
And it's an engine that's, picking up speed. Yes, sounds like it. Local food sales amounted to very small potatoes, so to speak, 20 years ago, with farmers markets being really the main place where farmers sold direct to consumers. Today, a different ballgame.
During the course of the pandemic, we realized and appreciated that we needed to transform our food system, that as efficient as it was not as resilient as it needed to be. We knew that it was going to be important and necessary for us to build a stronger, better supported local and regional food system.
And the Agriculture Secretary gave reporters a long list of things that have been done to boost the development of local and regional food systems.
We've increased money and investment in local agricultural marketing efforts and farmers markets. We expanded support for local and regional meat and poultry processing with a loan guarantee for mid-level supply chain, warehousing, cold storage operations. We look forward to announcing additional support for meat and poultry processing for new and expanded plant construction. We've also announced a non-meat and poultry processing assistance program.
Vilsack said having more local food production, local processing, local marketing will not just make the national food system stronger, but also on the local level.
Create more new and better markets for our producers that would increase profitability and more choice for consumers.
Consumers who more and more are wanting to buy more and more locally produced foods, and for good reasons.
Things like tomatoes are much better if you pick them and eat them fresh rather than picked early and shipped.
Definitely the flavor is just so much better because it's like fresh.
Fresh, yes. This is Fresh. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
What are some of the trends found in USDA's latest edition of its annual Household Food Security in the U.S. study? Rod Bain has this report.
USDA's annual look at household food security in our nation reveals that for 2023,
food insecurity among U.S. households increased from 12.8% in 2022 to 13.5% in 2023.
Economic researcher Matthew Rabbit, one of the authors of the study, adds,
very low food security, a more severe form of food insecurity, was unchanged.
Reported at 5.1% of U.S. households, per the latest household food security in the U.S. study.
Very low food security occurs when the normal eating patterns of some household members is disrupted at times during the year for one or more household members. As a result, the increase in food insecurity among U.S. households from 2022 to 2023 was due to increases in low food security among U.S. households. These low food secure households typically reported food acquisition problems, but few, if any, indications of reduced intake.
The findings regarding households with children in the context of food security.
For changes between 2022 and 2023, we are not seeing any changes in child food insecurity at all.
Statistically similar at just under 9% of American households. A further breakdown of categories indicates by region.
The prevalence of food insecurity in the Northeast, Midwest, and West was statistically significantly lower than the prevalence of food insecurity in the South in 2023. Compared with the national average, food insecurity was statistically significantly below the national average in 2023 in the Northeast and above the national average in the South.
While from a demographic perspective,
the households that typically experience food insecurity rates at higher than the national average from year to year tend to be the same. And so, for example, in 2023, the prevalence of food insecurity was statistically significantly above the national average for all households with children, women living alone, households with a Black, non-Hispanic, and Hispanic reference person, households with incomes below 185% of the federal poverty line, households in principal cities and non-metropolitan areas, and households in the South.
The annual study also looks at correlations between household food security and USDA food and nutrition programs.
When we look at that, we can see that roughly about 58% of food insecure households typically will utilize one of the three main federal nutrition assistance programs. That would be SNAP, WIC, and the National School Lunch Program.
More information about the household food security in the U.S. report and its findings are located online at www.ers.usda.gov. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
News time is 28 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.